Hello everyone! Welcome to the wide world of sports. No, I'm kidding. It's not the world of sports, it's the world of sports headphones. No, it's not even that. It's the world of competitive amplifiers. Aha! On ESP and the Ocho. Okay, so I've had the THX THX 887 for about a week and a half. And I've been listening to it consistently, and I have to tell you that the 887 sounds just like the 789. There is no coloration whatsoever from the amplifier. In fact, your amplifier shouldn't really have a coloration. Your amplifier shouldn't have a coloration. Let's just leave it at that. Your DAC can have a coloration, but your amplifier probably shouldn't. There's no noise difference between the two at all, whether you use quarter-inch or XLR. The only real difference that I can tell is with the volume, depending on the type of headphones you have. And if you have a particularly sensitive pair of headphones, and you plug it into the 887, then you plug it into the 789, you'll notice that there is in fact a volume difference, because the 887 provides over 8 watts of power at 16 ohms, which is a ridiculous amount if you get my drift. It's a ridiculous amount. But once you get into the normal impedance headphones, 32 ohms and 150 ohms, I think the 789 actually provides a little bit more power and consistent power than the 887. But that's only for specific use issues. If you're going to do A and B tests between headphones and you need to volume match or something like that. In real world tests, for example, with the Mr. Speaker's Ether C Flows 1.1, it doesn't matter, because you can use either amplifier. It makes no difference whatsoever with respect to the volume, because it's more than enough to power the ethers. In fact, both amplifiers have plenty of power to drive any headphone imaginable. The Argons, the T1s from Beyerdynamic, Mr. Speakers, any dynamic, any planar headphones you can think of, it'll work. Both of them, which is fantastic. So the question is, which one do you buy? Because they're priced exactly the same. Now, some of you might say, well, obviously get the better 887 because it's got the better THX chip and it's got the lower distortion numbers. But the thing of it is that if you watch my unboxing, you will quickly find out, hopefully, that the lower distortion numbers on the 887 are practically the same as the distortion numbers on the 789. So the 887 implementation really doesn't bring you a whole lot more. The 887 doesn't do anything for you. There are minuscule differences in the THD between the 887 and the 789. In some instances, according to the official records, the official information on Massdrop's website, if you compare, then the 887 has minuscule better noise control, but you can't hear it. All right, when you get to 0.00000x and you compare that to 0.000x, you cannot hear the difference. All right, it's just never going to happen. So for all practical and realistic purposes, both of these have zero noise for your ears. I don't care what audiophile you are, what generation you think you come from, you're not going to do it. So put that aside for a moment, because you need to understand that the 887 doesn't bring you any noise improvement that you can hear. You can measure it, you can't hear it. So the next question is, if that's not the issue, which one should I buy? Should I get the 887 over the 789? And that really comes down to your preference. Do you prefer to have the 789 or do you prefer to have the 887? And that's it, because they're the same price. They sound the same, and in use, whether you have one or the other, they work perfectly just the way that they're supposed to work. If you transplant one for another in a blind test, you will not be able to notice the difference. That's the way I look at it. But in order to prove it, we have to actually do the test. So we're going to use our handy dandy Mr. Speakers here that I cello taped here, scotch taped for you Americans, because the headband is a little loosey-goosey. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to our test playlist. And in our test playlist, we're going to go and listen to the bass response at the very beginning. So let's listen to Pure Water. And currently I have the headphones plugged into the 887 at medium gain, and we're about 9 o'clock, I think 9 o'clock, right? Because I can't tell. Yeah, 9 o'clock on the dial there. So let's start with Pure Water. 9 o'clock, perfect volume, medium gain. That's about the volume that I would sit and listen to the music at. Okay, so keep that in mind. 9 o'clock. We're going to increase the volume. By the way, this whole thing is being fed by the SMS cell SU8 using balanced. So everything is balanced for both. So the Mr. speakers are not known for bass impact. So you're not getting bass impact, but you get clean, clear, absolutely neutral sound. No noise, no distortion, no harshness. Okay, we're going to increase the volume from about 11 to 12. And that's so loud I can't even hear myself speak. Okay, so we're going to stop the music. And let's bring the volume back down to about 9 o'clock. What we're going to do is we're going to switch out the two of these. Okay, and I assume the power is on. Is the power on? It is. Power is on. We're going to take this to medium gain. We're going to switch to number 2, I think. Right? We'll see. I don't remember what's what here. And let's increase the volume. Nope, that's not it. That's it. So let's restart the song. And we're medium gain 9 o'clock. The volume is a tiny, tiny, tiny bit less on the 789 at 9 o'clock medium gain for the Mr. speakers. Let's increase to 11. And at 11 o'clock, again, it's a little too muted compared to the 887. We're going to increase to 12. 12 o'clock is what 11 o'clock essentially sounded like on the 887. Let's go to 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock was 12 o'clock on the 887. Now, it sounds crystal clear, no distortion, no harshness. The bass response has not changed. Again, this goes back to my initial statement that amplifiers should not color your sound, and neither of these color the sound. I hear no sonic difference at all. Okay, so let's stop. And let's take this back down to about 9 o'clock. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that there is, in fact, a little indicator here for volume position, as there is on the 887. But the one on the 789 actually has a grayness to it, right? You can easily see this on the black knob itself, whereas on the 887, it's painted black, just like the rest of it, so you can't see it. You can feel it, but you can't see it, and that's a problem, as I've been saying on the posts. Okay, now, what we're going to do is let's go to a piano-centric song. Let's go to Flight from the City, and we've still got the 789. At 9 o'clock, this is the perfect volume, in my opinion, for this song. It's airy, it sounds wide, it sounds crystal clear, but let's increase to 11. And 11 is the maximum I would ever take the song to. No harshness, no distortion, no peakiness. Absolutely crystal clear. So what happens if we go back down to 9 o'clock and we change it to high gain? So low, medium, high. We're currently on medium. Let's switch it to high gain. And high gain at 9 o'clock sounds like medium gain at 11 o'clock, right? Let's go back to medium. And now from medium, let's go to low gain. And low gain, now we've got that. low gain is about medium gain around 7 o'clock. So there is indeed a definite difference between the gain switches, the gain numbers. There are some amplifiers out there that provide high gain and low gain, but they really provide very little gain difference. Not so with the 789. You can clearly hear the audible difference here. All right, so let's stop, and we're going to switch back to the 887. Okay, we're back on the 887, 9 o'clock on the 887. Let's restart Flight from the City. Here we go. I'm going to increase to 11 o'clock, and 11 o'clock is definitely louder than 11 o'clock on medium gain on the 789. So I'm going to try to volume match from best of memory here. I would say just about 10 o'clock or so is about 11 o'clock on the 789 on medium gain. Clean, clear, no distortion, no harshness, no peakiness. The sound is exactly the same between these two. Sounds open and expansive. All right, so now let's bring this down to 9 o'clock, okay? We're gonna go from medium gain to high gain. Ooh, that's a big jump. Let's go back to medium. And medium, let me try again. So it appears that with the 887, so we started at medium gain 9 o'clock, then we didn't turn the volume knob, we switched to high gain, and it jumped up. It was a much more noticeable jump in volume increase than on the 789. And now that I'm trying to volume match, so we're still on medium gain, we're at 9 o'clock, I'm going to go to high gain. I'm going to try to volume match, and it's probably around noon. That's how big a difference it is. Maybe just under noon. So between medium and high, much bigger difference than there is between medium and high on the 789. So now let's go from medium to low. 9 o'clock on medium. Here we go to low. Okay. That's a far less dramatic change. So let's go. Let's listen real quick, go back to medium and try to match. Yeah. So it's about 7 o'clock, maybe 8 on the knob to volume match with low gain at 9 o'clock. Yeah. So, number 2 issue. Well, not issue, but number 2 point. The first one was that there's no noise, no distortion, no audible difference between the two. But number 2, the gain switches actually are different. So the power output between these two amplifiers is definitely not the same with respect to the gain, right? The gain knobs. And so if you have the 887 and you have a hard to drive headphone and you want to go from medium gain to high gain, it seems as if that you're probably going to get a bigger volume boost out of switching from medium gain to high gain than you will on the 789. Assuming you don't want to increase the volume, you just want to increase the gain. Now, why you wouldn't just increase the volume and leave the gain at medium, I don't know. I'll let all of you debate that because it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. But to you, it might matter for whatever reason. No difference whatsoever. Now you might say, how about single-ended? Does single-ended sound the same? Well, I'm glad you asked me that, because when I purchased my Mr. Ether C's from eBay, the guy also sent in this. So we're gonna switch to the single-ended. We are currently still on the 887. And let's go to a different song. Let's listen to Scherzo for X-Wings. 9 o'clock on medium gain. I'm going to increase, sounds pretty muted. Noon sounds about expansive, but this particular song needs amplification more than this. I'm not happy with 12 o'clock, so what do? Let's increase the gain. Let's go from medium to high. Here we go. Oh, boop! It sounds so big and expensive. Ah, that's a lot of gain. Let's bring this back down to medium. So what happens is that I go to 12 o'clock on that, and at 12 o'clock I'm like, it's simply not enough. I need more volume. I could easily increase the volume, but I wanted to instead switch the gain, and switching the gain gives you this boom, boost in the volume, like a punch in the gut. And that's not really fantastic for songs like Scherzo for X-Wings, because what happens is that these have really ear-piercing instruments with certain headphones. And when the horn and the brass start playing and you're switching from medium to high gain, it goes right into your eardrums and it stabs it with a knife. Which is why perhaps using the volume is a better idea than switching the gain. Of course, you could just roll down the volume and then switch on the higher gain. Whatever. Okay, so now let's switch to the 789. And the 789 medium gain, 9 o'clock. Let's restart this song. Again, pretty muted, just like on the 887. In fact, I would say that for single-ended, the volume difference is barely noticeable. Let's increase. It sounds just about the same as it did on the 887 at noon. So now I'm going to increase the gain and let's see what happens. Ready? Yeah. Let's try again. There seems to be just a bit more control over the gain switching on the 789 than on the 887. Because on the 887 it seemed almost like, you know, you're listening to it, it sounds like this. Okay, let me give you an example. Here we go. This is noon on the 887 on medium, okay? You hear that? Then you switch the high gain and don't move the volume. So here's the example. Here's how it starts out. Switch the high gain. That's how it sounds. It just goes right into your eardrum. The 789 has a bit more finesse. Instead of just screaming inside your ear, it increases the volume, I would say by a good 8 to 10 decibels. The 887 seems to increase it by like 15 decibels. Now, this is just an approximation. Don't take this as rote word. I'm just trying to explain to you the difference in volume gain by just changing the gain knob here. So don't use the gain knob, obviously, to fine-tune the volume. Use your volume knob. Let's try this again. Yeah. So what you'll notice is that there are some occasions when you have a pair of headphones that just requires more power. And when you pump in the more power, the drivers start responding a whole lot better, and then they become, it sounds wider or tighter depending on your particular pair of headphones. So for example, the Sony MDR Z7 Mark II, they sound really smooth and gentle until you feed them a tremendous amount of power, like we did with the Audio GD 1 amp. We used the 1 amp and we increased to about 143 on this. You know, 143 is I don't know what on any other amplifier. But we increased to 143 and the drivers just tightened up and became really impactful, and it just was a totally different listening experience. I could say very similar things about the Mr. Speakers, because when you go from noon on medium gain to noon on high gain, the expansiveness increases. So the soundstage goes from about here to about here, right? I mean, it's a noticeable difference just with that switch of the gain. But what other things that happen is that the instruments also become louder and they become more in your face. Which is why I think for practical reasons, you got to be careful which one of these amplifiers you use when you're switching gain from medium to high. Low to medium doesn't really matter all that much. Medium to high, I think, has the more impactful, more meaningful difference. When we go, and let's switch back to the 887. Okay, we're on the 887. I'm going to go to 12 o'clock here, still medium gain, and I'm going to replay the song. Okay, we're playing. Medium gain. It sounds pretty wide, you know, it sounds about this. You're listening to it, going, I need a little bit more. Now we switch to high gain, and it's just boomy, like, bah, in your face, boom, bah, like that. And so we got to break this back down. And that's a pretty big difference, I would say. Okay? So, let's take these things off. I wanted to make this as simple as possible for people. We can continue to do a whole lot of tests on the two amplifiers. Tell me what you want to know. Because here's the way I look at it. Sonically, sound-wise, they're exactly the same. There's no distinguishing marks about them. Equal clarity, equal audible clarity. They don't add any coloration. You could do a blind test A and B volume matched, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, I think. The only real problem, I think, and it may not be a problem to you, but the only real concern I would say is with the gain switching. And some people might say, well, why would I change gain? If I set a gain, I'll just use the volume knob. That's fine. Others of you might say, well, I want to utilize the gain switch under certain circumstances, and that information might be of some benefit to you. Overall, what is the point of the 887? I still don't get it. Now here's the thing. This is just my opinion, so correct me if I am wrong. But when you have product A, say the 789, that's been hyped and hyped and hyped and hyped, and it does, and frankly, it does a very good job, but it's hyped and hyped and hyped. And it sells for $400. Then here comes Monolith with product B, and it's selling it for $400. But it puts in a better chip, better components. Now you have to be convinced as a consumer that it's worth buying the same product essentially for the same amount of money from a company that, you know, you may or may not really know about, you may not really care about, you don't know anything about their warranty, for example. Would you go out and buy the Monolith? And I don't really see why. I mean, what is the reason? If you have the 789 widely available, which it is because it's on Amazon, and you have the Monolith available, the only distinguishing marks between these two is the volume difference, but that really doesn't matter a whole lot, depending on which instruments, which speakers, which headphones you use. It probably won't make a big difference to you, if any. And number two, the chip, the 887 versus the 789, sonically there's zero difference. You can't hear the noise difference, and there is no coloration to the amplifiers. So you have to voluntarily say, purposefully say, I'd rather buy the Monolith than the 789. Because the Monolith doesn't really bring anything that would entice you to pay towards that product rather than product A, rather than the 789. I'll give you a different example. You have the 789, and you know you got to get a balanced amplifier, or excuse me, balanced DAC, and you got to do the whole setup thing. And you may be new to the whole audiophile game, and you don't know which setup to use. And here comes Monolith with a $500, $550, whatever it was, THX desktop that has a built-in balanced DAC, that has an LCD screen, that's got digital filters and menus and all sorts of stuff that trumps the 789. And then you can justify buying this for a little bit more money because it's got everything that the 789 doesn't come with. But that's not the situation here. Now, had Monolith included things that really mattered, that really made a difference, and charged $400, then you could say, yeah, maybe I want to buy the Monolith and not the 789. Now, what additional features could they have included? Well, how about this? How about they had included a built-in DAC and made this cheaper, or made this $499, or excuse me, $399, not $499, but $399. And now you have a direct competitor with the 789 that provides substantial more for the money. Now you can entice people to buy Monolith. See, that makes more sense to me as a consumer. But to go out and you're on Amazon or online and you see both of these amplifiers for exactly the same price, I don't see it. You have to really like Monolith, or you really want to have Monolith 887 and not the 789. And that's really the only issue that comes down to, I think. So there you go. How can you go wrong with either of these two devices? I don't really think you can. I think both of them work pretty well. And since they're both the same price, it really just is a coin toss which one you want. Now, for future reviews of the 887, tell me what you want to know, and I will conduct that particular video review. Because you already have my conclusion. Now tell me what other tests you want me to do. I hope that this has been of some help. The 789 is remaining here because I bought it. The 887 has to go back in about 2.5 weeks. So you've got about another 2 weeks or so to tell me which reviews you want me to do for the 887, and I'll be happy to do it. And if I don't hear from you, I'll just start doing my own reviews and make a couple more videos about this thing. And then it'll go back. Thank you so much once again for joining me. Thank you so much for putting up with this whole cam thing. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of a better way to just do this quickly and then give you the information that you need to know instead of going all through the whole nice, cute intros and cute video work. Doesn't make much difference to me. Thank you so much. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for becoming a patron if you are a patron, if you want to be a patron. And thank you for all your suggestions and your comments, and also for letting me know what other next review you want of the 887. Take care and have a fantastic weekend.